Jose Mourinho, Manchester United story so far, the good, the bad and the ugly. We're going to get into it tonight. We're never going to get a better opportunity before the end of the season to look at the job he's done pretty much from June to now. There are great points, there are bad points, there are ugly points. We've got comments from Twitter, Snapchat, Alex, and the live comments we'll be going through as well. So let's crack on with it. And I just want to put in, before I go to Alex and I get Ross on the show, I just want to say this. There are negatives and we'll be going through them. There are lots of good points as well. But I just want to say before we start, and we're going to go through some, I've asked Alex and Ross and you lot to give us your goods and your bads. But I want to say from the start, I wouldn't swap Jose Mourinho for the world, Alex. I think he's the right manager for Manchester United. I think there definitely has been some things that we're going to talk about tonight, but it's I do think he has been fantastic for Manchester United. Where do you want to start, positive or negative? What's your big positive with Jose Mourinho as Manchester United manager?
Like you said, I think he's definitely the person to take us forward. I think people will say like, oh yeah, you're not sixth anymore, fifth and all this stuff. But I think if you can't see the improvements from how we were playing under Moyes and Van Gaal, then football's not the game for you. We're definitely moving in the right direction. The players he's signed in, all four of them, every single person I'm sure would agree would be over the moon with them. We've already won a trophy, which it's a really weird stat that the trophy in their first season. So Mourinho's already won one and could potentially win the Europa League as well, which we're all expecting. We're the favourites for it. We should definitely win, and as I've said before, it's the main trophy I want us to win. So I'm really, really happy with it.
Okay, I've just hung up there. I was trying to get Ross on the call, but this is the problem when we've already started. I need to get Alex back on. Let me sort that out. But in relation to Jose Mourinho, I think one of the big positives for me that I want to talk about is really that we have won a League Cup. He's gone with every single trophy and he's tried to do it. And I think one of the negatives with some people may well be the League Cup. And the way that's worked out, and not the League Cup, the league, and how that has worked out, and maybe we could have done a little bit better there. But I don't know whether that's necessarily down to him. I think he set the team out. They've missed a lot of chances, and we could have done far better than we have done. I agree with that totally. But the positive, I think, far outweighs the negatives. But there are some negatives that we may as well do it a bit like a tennis match, really. What's been good, what's been bad. I'll tell you what's bad at the moment. My frigging internet is crap. I now can't get Alex back on. But hopefully he's not trying to call me because I'm trying to call him. Moment of the year, says Colin McMahon. We can talk about that in a moment. But let's deal with the elephant in the room to start off with. A lot of you, I'm going to go through what a lot of people have said on Twitter anyway. And a lot of people had brought up this same subject, which is the youth. Which I don't really disagree with you about it. I think there is a problem with that. We spoke about it the other day. 4 minutes. 4 minutes is not good enough in the Premier League, and it isn't good enough. And bringing attractive football back is a positive, says United's Prime. But worst thing is not giving youth a chance. Let's have a look at the live comments. Do you agree with that? Do you think it isn't an issue? Do you think he's going to improve that issue in the future? It's certainly something that bothers a lot of people, and this is the opportunity to discuss that in a little bit more depth. I know Alex is a big fan of Fosu Mensah, and hopefully we've got him back on the show now. I was just saying there, Alex, a lot of people were saying about Fosu Mensah and that being a negative thing about Mourinho, as we sort of bat between the goods and the bads. Is it something that's bothered you? To be fair to him, there are people out there who say, no, I haven't really got a problem with him not using Fosu Mensah at the moment because he's using experience.
I think for his first season, he's just trying to get us back to the top no matter what. So that's why the youth haven't been played as much as some were expecting or hoped for. But Fosu is the main one that I'm upset about him not really getting much game time. But having said that, Rashford's still getting game time and... it's pretty much just Rashford. But yeah, for my negative, it would be, it has paid dividends for Mkhitaryan, but sometimes how he hasn't so much fallen out with the players. But with Shaw, Martial and Mkhitaryan, how when they got dropped, they didn't really get much of a chance to re-establish themselves back in. I know he says that, if you come back into the team and you play phenomenal, then you'll stay in the team. But I think that was quite a lot of pressure to put on them. Mkhitaryan obviously stood up to the challenge when that happened, but with Shaw and Martial, they found it a bit harder. And he had this one game when Martial came back in where he said that, he has to play phenomenal. And I thought he did play really well. I think he got 1 or 2 assists. I think it was in the FA Cup or something. And then he got dropped to the bench for the next game, which was quite frustrating.
Yes. Just looking at another comment here. Breach69 saying, obviously, Jose doesn't think the youth is good enough. And as you keep saying, you back the manager. Well, Breach69, we may as well pack up and go home as United fans if we're just going to sit back and take it. I mean, I never took it under Sir Alex, and I'm not going to take it under Mourinho. And we certainly didn't take it under Moyes and Van Gaal. Just because you back a manager doesn't mean that you agree, whether it's football or anything. I back Mourinho. I wouldn't swap him for anybody else in the world, but I'd also back the fan opinion who aren't happy about. I think youth is too wide a word. I would defend him on that point. I think he's not using the youth is too wide a word. It's not, should he be playing Twansibi every week? Well, no, he shouldn't. What he should have done is probably give Twansibi a bit more minutes than he has. But he hasn't done that, and the League Cup and that's gone to bed now. So I don't want to see Twansibi playing next month because I think that's too much of a baptism of fire. It might have to now because Jones and Smalling's are out, which is funny. He should have used them in some of the earlier rounds of the League Cup. So the youth is a wide question, but the Fosu Mensah, and I think we should remove the word youth and just say Fosu Mensah, he should have used him more, Alex. I think that's what a lot of people are saying. Last season, I don't know whether people have short memories or not, but he played away to Spurs and was man of the match. And Spurs were up going for fourth. We were going for fourth. He was man of the match 12 months ago. 12 months later, he's played 4 minutes in the Premier League. I don't care how much you love Mourinho or anything like that, and I really do. I can't find an excuse for him for that because I just think it's regression. But what I don't understand, and I've said this quite a lot, is I don't know whether he had plans for Fosu Mensah and then he's bottled it a bit this season because he could quite easily have just put him out on loan like he has done with Pereira. And Pereira's, that's been brilliant. We've seen what it's done for Pereira. And I think, if we're going to talk about the good, the bad and the ugly, one of the good things, and we'll bring it in now, is what he did with Pereira. Because Pereira, we've been a big fan of his for the last 2 years on pre-season and everything. We feel he's ready. And I think Mourinho said last summer he's a very good player, but obviously realised he wasn't going to use him much. So found him alone where he's played week in, week out, and he's been brilliant. So Fosu Mensah's not... I don't understand what he's done with him, but the Pereira thing's been fantastic.
Yeah, I think Fosu and Twanzebe should have both been put out on loan. I really don't understand why neither of them were. But with Pereira, obviously he's gone to Levante, is it? And he's done really well.
Granada, yeah.
Oh, Granada, sorry, yeah. And he's played well, not just in awful matches. He's played well against Real Madrid and Barcelona with the standout, 2 of his standout games or so I've read. And when I've seen some clips of how he's been doing out there, he has been doing really well. And obviously we're big fans of his from his time in the academy and on the pre-season tour. He's one of our best, was our best academy player. But I kind of worry about with his size, he's been playing, I think, more central midfield for Granada as far as I know. And I'm worried that he maybe doesn't have the physicality that Mourinho likes in that sort of player. And when it comes to number 10, I know he can play anywhere across behind the striker as well. But when it comes to that number 10, there's a lot of competition there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with Pereira in the summer. It'll be really interesting. It is a 3 o'clock kickoff next week, Craig. He's talking about West Brom. Can't wait for that. It is a 3 o'clock on a Saturday, though, which is quite funny. But we're playing Everton on the following Tuesday. I mean, I just can't wait to get football back now. I mean, bloody England. I sort of turned it on a bit tonight. And, I mean, this is the problem. Wally's run by the media. I mean, Jermaine Defoe basically retired from England football about 20 years ago. The media get on about him, and South. I mean, this is what really winds me up about England. It's management by the media. They put soft people in charge who will just pick a team that the media want. And the fact that Rashford's on the bench for Jermaine Defoe, it's just, I'm glad I don't watch England much because they just wind me right up. But it's gone.
Fun fact quickly about Rashford in that game, because I actually watched the game, but then I saw the who scored whatever that Twitter thing. Put out a stat saying that Matt Rashford in his 30-minute cameo created the most chances in the game and completed the most dribbles. More than the players like Dele Alli, who apparently is England's saviour, did in 90.
I don't know. I don't know why people bother following England unless you've got something else to do. I would do it. But back to Manchester United. we've done the good, we've done the bad. Let's do the ugly. Let's talk about Marouane Fellaini, because a lot of people will know. I mean, there's lots of positives. I want to talk about Rojo. We're going to pick up on some of your comments as well. I want to talk about Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, Schweinsteiger, obviously, Rooney, what Mourinho's done with him, and it's certainly this is far from a witch hunt. I want to chuck as many positives in there as possible, because I think there are positives. But I think the great thing about Manchester United fans, especially, is that we are realistic and we will look at this season and go, yes, the League Cup's been fantastic. I think we should have challenged for the league. I think that is, but I don't necessarily blame Mourinho. I think that's just ridiculous. We've got some stat at home, I think, where we've scored 5 goals from 130 chances. It's not good enough, and that's from the players. So, but in relation to Fellaini, let's get that dealt with quickly. I don't know where I stand with Fellaini, Alex, and I'll give it to you first while I think it through, because he doesn't really get mentioned as a player that's going to be sold now, but I don't know. One thing I have been saying for the last couple of weeks is that effort at this time of the season is far more important than skill a lot of the times, because you look at Arsenal and Liverpool at the start of the season, they were playing fantastic football and their fans are like, this is our year, this is our year. But the experienced heads who know what a football season's like will say, come February and March, they won't be playing like that, because it's impossible to be playing like that. They'll need to grind results out, which is what we're doing. And you still get some United fans, oh, we were crap. Oh, yeah, we won, but we were crap. But I think you need to watch football a few more years and understand that this is what happens. You've got to grind results out. And Fellaini's perfect for that at the moment, because what he lacks in ability, and he does lack ability in certain areas, he makes up with effort. But having said that, somebody made a very good comment to me today. Where is it? At Dave Sport MUFC says, why is everyone going great about Fellaini? He had a good 30 minutes against the poor Rostov at Old Trafford, and then played well against Sunderland, who will against Middlesbrough, who will get relegated. Which is probably a fair point, really. I'm consistent about Fellaini. I'd sell him tomorrow if we could, and I think if you play him in a midfield against City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, we'll get beat, because he doesn't suit that sort of game. You play him against Borough, where it's going to be physical, and he can put in a performance.
To be honest, I said it on, I think it was last week's show, that he's starting to grow on me. I still, don't get me wrong, I still wouldn't have him as a starter over Pogba, Herrera or whoever, but he can do a job. He follows, like what we've seen with the last 3 managers, they all seem to pick him, and there must be a reason for that. I don't know whether it's in training or what, but he does follow the manager's instructions down to a T. So, and he does give his all, like you said, the effort's so important at this stage, and he has been playing well recently. Like I said, I wouldn't have him as a starter, but I have no problems with him staying, and I think he's a good squad player to have, to be honest. Like, even if you need to just chuck him on in the last 10 minutes to like hoof it up in situations like that, but even in other games, like where you need like a presence, like you said in that Rostov game, the away one, where it was literally just all the game being played in the air, and we needed that physicality because the pitch was so bad. So he definitely has a job. You can see he cares for the club. I feel sorry for him with all the boos and stuff, and myself, I've criticised him as well, and as well as other people on this channel have. But he's starting to play all right. So I have nothing against him anymore.
George Kyle said, yes, let's talk Smalling and burn the witch. We will be talking about Smalling, don't worry. What I would say about Fellaini is it's always good to be even-handed, and in fact Marouane Fellaini has made a £5 contribution. If it was the real one, it'd be fantastic, but he says, enough about me, can you get Sir Alex Ferguson in the live chat, Mark? Obviously you can contribute to the channel on the super chat option. Make sure you always ask something, because we will read it out. In fact, Mad Marcus has just made a contribution saying, have a happy Mother's Day to his mother, love. Let's have a look. Love you loads. It is Mother's Day. We wouldn't be here without him. But what was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, we mustn't forget. I think it's a slight negative about Fellaini. I must bring it in on a personal note, and I don't know how many people will agree with me, and I'm probably setting myself up for a bit of hate here. But I think Mourinho's obsession with Fellaini has cost us points this season, without doubt. Whatever he's doing now, and I think between now and the end of the season, I agree with Alex, he's going to be very important. There's no doubt in my mind that Mourinho's odd obsession with Fellaini has cost us points. I think about when he brought him on against Everton, and Leon Osman said in training we wouldn't let him anywhere near our box, and Mourinho brings him in, penalty. It was clown behaviour from Fellaini. But also, going back to the start of the season when we played Watford and Man City 2 games in a row, and he was playing Rooney and Fellaini as as a midfield too, and we just got absolutely run ragged. We were lucky City weren't 4 off at Old Trafford. So I think Mourinho does have a bit of a weird Fellaini obsession. I don't necessarily think that's Fellaini's fault. If you ask any player to go and play for Manchester United in midfield, you're not going to say, "Oh, really? My best position is off the number 9." But I think Mourinho does have a bit of an obsession with Fellaini that sometimes does bite us in the backside. But enough of him. I mentioned one name there before we talk about some others. Wayne Rooney. I've got to say, Alex, you've been on the channel nearly as long as I have, and I remember you saying this at the August of Van Gaal's last season. So we had a whole season of Van Gaal to come, and you said Rooney's finished. He's on the decline. He's been a great servant, but the legs are going. It's a decline now. And I remember me and Kev saying, no. I'm sure he can do it. I'm sure he can get back. And to be fair, you were right. I know you've been rinsed by Rio Ferdinand about saying Alex did a tweet about in 2005 saying that Michael Keane will never be an international for Rio Ferdinand has basically done him on Instagram if you are on Instagram. So Alex doesn't always get it right, but you got it right about Rooney. And what I would say is, I think Mourinho deserves a lot of praise because for those of us who've seen that Rooney's not been good enough for the last 3 years, Mourinho is the first manager to come in and deal with the problem, and so much deal with the problem that even the Rooney-loving media have not even kicked up a fuss that he's not part of this squad anymore. I think even they realise the sad thing, and it is sad, it's not a witch hunt again, that Rooney is finished as a top level player. But Mourinho was the man to do with that. And it, at a time as well when we weren't getting results.
Yeah, it is really sad. Like Rooney's like the last player really left from my childhood growing up from that golden era when we had the likes of like Beckham and everyone in that England team. But so it is sad to see him decline. Like other players, you have to look at like Zlatan and stuff that in their first, or even an English example with Defoe, that they clearly looked after themselves a lot better than Rooney has. But having said that, I think if he does go to Everton or he's even linked with West Ham now, I think he still has contributions to give. He's still capable of getting in quite a few goals in the season, just not at United standards where teams are going to be parking it. I think he can still contribute to Everton's team. But they did that documentary, I think it was like over a year ago now on BBC with Rooney, like going back through his career. And if you look at the player now compared to the player then, and at 30, some players are in their prime at 30 still. He isn't really that old. But as I've said on the show countless times, I think he was one of those like freaks of puberty like Lukaku that was the size of a fully grown man when they were like 15. So his body deteriorated quicker, and he obviously doesn't. His like body type hasn't really got the like lean frame of a Zlatan or like a Giggs used to have. So I think the miles have just caught up with him, but he's still a great player, and Mourinho handled it absolutely brilliantly. I saw some journalists saying about it that they think maybe Mourinho was playing him so much at the start to like in mind games to like say to the fans like, oh yeah, see, he can't actually do it, to like prove a point and then phase him out. Because normally you'd think if you dropped Rooney, the media, like you said, would be going absolutely crazy, like when Fergie did it in that Real Madrid game. And it caused all the problems there, but he's handled it. And to be fair, not only just like he hasn't kicked up a fuss, but if you saw in the League Cup final, he was going to come on just for, what was it, like a 2-minute cameo or something, and then we scored. And then he was like one of the main people celebrating. So I think Rooney's attitude as well has to be applauded.
Oh yeah, I'd agree. And it's interesting because Rashford said this week that Rooney's contribution in the dressing room is amazing, but then you get Mourinho, like when we went away to Russia, he didn't take Rooney, rested him, and it's like, you know, Mourinho is definitely phasing him out, both as an influence in the dressing room and on the pitch. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. I think Rooney deserves a lot of credit because he could have stirred trouble up in the press. He definitely has got friends in the press, and he hasn't clearly done that. But like Tyrone Williams says in the live comments, Rooney might be finished, but it's important to remember his fantastic contribution. I certainly agree, but I just think that a time comes when a player goes, and being old enough, I've seen that happen time and time again, and Rooney's time is coming. I'd love him to go to Everton, and I'd support him at Everton, and I'd be interested to see what he does at Everton, and I really hope he does that. I think he's got to go this summer just for his own legacy, because I think the club's moving on, and I think he needs to move on. Schweinsteiger though, Alex, we did that reaction a couple of summers ago, about 11 o'clock at night. I was absolutely ecstatic. I've even been ribbed a bit this week from people saying, oh, you said he would be a Cantona-esque signing, and I fully accept I was wrong. I thought he would be, but I think anybody deserves an excuse under Van Gaal. I mean, people say Mata and Herrera have been fantastic this year, and they have. They weren't great under Van Gaal. Nobody was. No, nobody was. Carrick was awful under Van Gaal. They all were, and I think that's down to a bad manager with a bad system. The Schweinsteiger thing, I think he goes with best wishes. I think he's probably I remember Ryan Giggs when a few weeks after Schweinsteiger had signed, and he did an interview, and he said, "I've never seen a signing grasp Manchester United better than Bastian Schweinsteiger. He absolutely loves the place." Which always angers me when people say about Schweinsteiger, "Oh, he was jetting around the world, sat on his arse earning loads of money." Well, Mourinho came into United with a preconception about Schweinsteiger because he put him straight in with the kids, and if Schweinsteiger's on whatever it is, some people think 250 grand a week, 200 grand a week, whatever, he could have just sat there and done nothing, done an Adebayor really, and just sat and took his wages. And he didn't. He worked really hard. He got back in the first team training. Then he had a couple of first team games. And personally, I thought the Wigan game was a fantastic performance, and I thought we'd see more of him. What do you think? Do you think it's just Mourinho never really fancied him and wanted rid of him? It does seem a little bit weird that he got himself back fit. He played for the first team against Wigan. He played very well. People can say it's only Wigan, but there were other first teamers playing that day who didn't play very well and have been playing since. Could have probably used him till the end of the season, but they obviously wanted shot.
I think he could be thinking about it like a money thing because, like you said, he was on like 250 grand a week, and it's weird that he didn't get given a chance because if anything, if he doesn't think his abilities maybe that good, he could have just, when we were doing that 3-man midfield with Carrick playing, he could have just alternated with Carrick seamlessly. And it's like he's a world winner. Germany international, won basically everything there is to win in the game. Well, I think he has actually won everything there is to win in the game. And so even just for his experience alone, you'd think we'd give him a chance. Like you said, when he did play this season, I thought he played quite well. And he did that brilliant crossing for Fellaini, was it? And then
I think that's assist of the season, to be honest.
Yeah, that I know other people said about that Mkhitaryan one, which was really good. But that was brilliant. And it's just sad how it all turned out. Like you said about when we did that reaction show, how excited we were. But I think it's just wrong place, wrong time. Right place, wrong time. And how you said about how him getting the club, there was pictures of him because obviously his brother's a United fan, and there's pictures of Bastian Schweinsteiger at 14 or something in a United kit. So I think his English team always were United, and he said in that thing the only team he ever would have considered leaving Bayern for is United. And then after things didn't work out with us, he said he wouldn't go to any team in Europe after United. So that's obviously why he went to the MLS. I think he could have, if he wanted to, still have done it at another European team, but maybe not at the highest level because he's another one like Rooney that just seems to have burnt out before his time, really.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think he was ever going to be a 40 to 60 game a season player, but I think it was obvious when we signed him that surely him and Carrick would share the role, but it's just not materialised. I want to talk a bit about Carrick in a moment, but I want to also talk about positives. Indy Tagger says Martial was amazing under Van Gaal. He was. Daniel Crowe says so was De Gea. Well, he had to be because he was so busy. And good comment here from Dino Brown. Smoking beers and kebabs have done for Rooney. There was a great article by one of our fitness coaches a few years ago who said that Ronaldo was always obsessed with fitness and his body and looking after his body, and Rooney didn't take any interest. All Rooney wanted to do was kick a ball. And obviously, you hit 30.
That guy, isn't that the one that said that Rooney could have easily got to Ronaldo's level? Like he was just as good as him when they were both on the team at the same time, but Ronaldo worked 10 times harder than Rooney.
Probably. I couldn't quote that for quote, but it wouldn't surprise me. But definitely the fitness side of things. And when you hit 30, if you don't look after yourself, it catches up with you. Look at Ryan Giggs, Yoga King, played till his late 30s, but not everybody does it. And Rooney has always struggled with fitness. When he gets injured, he's normally very rusty for a long time because he needs to it's almost like a slow tandem, and then he gets quicker and quicker. But talking about positives, I wanted to just talk about the defensive side of things and also the football side of things, because I've had this argument with a few people, and I do think that Manchester United's football this season, I know we've missed a lot of chances, but I think the football we've played this season has been better. Obviously, it's not hard to be better than Van Gaal and Moyes, but I think it's been better than the season that we won the title under Sir Alex, which, I remember it vividly. If you took Van Persie out of that team, we wouldn't have won a title. It was a very, very tough team to beat under Sir Alex Ferguson, but we weren't thrashing teams. In fact, I remember us being behind against Southampton at whatever their ground's called, and it was a Van Persie hat-trick. And we did have people like Vidic and Ferdinand and Evra. We had a lot of leaders, we ground out results, and then we had that world-class player in Van Persie to get us the goals. But the football wasn't necessarily brilliant. I think the game against Real Madrid at home was probably our best performance of that season, and we got knocked out. But the football this year has been consistently better than I think I've seen anything for the last few years. And in tandem with that, Alex, the job he's done, especially with Jones, up until Jones got injured again, I think he's been back to his old self, and now he's injured again. But Rojo, I mean, I never thought I'd be saying this in the summer, but I just think Rojo and Bailly should be our centre-backs. And I think Rojo at a left-back is still a terrible left-back, but as a left-sided centre-back, he's just fantastic in that position. And the thing I always used to be very critical of Rojo, and people who've been on the show for a long time will know, always used to get stuck in a halfway house. If he jumped in, he got skinned. If he stood back, he'd stand back too far, and they'd shoot and score. He sorted that out, and I just can't believe it. I think it's probably one of the positives of the season with Antonio Valencia, who he's taught to defend, because I think Valencia's a great player, but he's turned him into a right-back who can defend. Defensively, he's just turned some of our defenders into some of the best in the league.
Yeah, with Valencia, there was a thing come out recently that Mourinho wanted him at Real Madrid, and I think I actually remembered that to be his right back then. With Rojo, I just absolutely love him. You know, he's the sort of player that like rival fans would absolutely hate. Like the same with Diego Costa happens. That just like someone that just goes completely through players. But then again, Bailly's a bit like that. So I don't know if they ever have played together, but I would definitely like to see them. The issue is that you're running a thin line of that. Both of them could end up getting sent off in a game because of how they play. But they're like the sort of players that the fans absolutely love because of it's how passionate he is as well. You often get that with like the Latin American players, but I just love how he's so reckless and just goes through people with the tackle. But I always said under Van Gaal that I prefer him at centre back than at left back, and it is weird that Mourinho does keep playing him in some games as a left back, but then he does it with Darmian as well rather than Luke Shaw. But as a left centre back, I think he's brilliant, and we probably will end up signing someone this summer. But if we don't, then I'd be happy with Bailly and Rojo as our centre backs. But having said that, it won't surprise me if once they're back fit that Jones and Smalling come back in.
I think Mourinho is probably one of the best defensive coaches in the world, and the team that he has around him. And I think he almost deserves a medal for what he's done with Rojo. And let's not forget, he had Rojo and Jones at a time when we were like, God, Bay's out injured, we're going to really struggle. And we were, rightly so, as United fans, we were worried because we've seen Rojo and Jones for the last few years and they've been a comedy act. But he sorted them out. I think he has. I used to say last year Valencia's not a right back because positionally he hasn't got a clue. Mourinho sorted him out. He is a fantastic right back now. So I think he deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that. Just going to read some of your Twitter comments. At De Gea Save says, best thing he's done is drop Rooney. Worst thing is consistently poor team selections and tactics, particularly in big games. We'll come back to that. It's an interesting one. Oliver Fraser says, best winning the EFL Cup. Worst ignoring Fosu, Shaw and Bastian. We'll come back to Shaw as well. Best says SJ Designs 2. Silverware wasn't bad, but that brought confidence back to United. And worst is inconsistency with team selections and Fellaini obsession. Billy Herrera, or at Bilbo Rocky, the best is the style of the play and that we are hard to beat once again. The worst is his reluctance to drop his favourites or use the squad. Some really good points in there, Alex. I mean, what would you say in relation to that one about him and his team selections in the big games? I mean, I'm trying to think. Chelsea, obviously, we got thrashed in October, but that was down to individual errors. The game was over within 5 minutes. Liverpool away, we parked the bus, didn't we? Liverpool at home, I think he put the right team out. They just didn't turn up. Arsenal at home, we had it won. It was a bad substitution to put Rashford at left back against the fresh Oxlade-Chamberlain. City at home, yeah, he played Fellaini and Rooney in midfield. That was a mistake. But I don't think he's done that bad with his team selections, really. I just think, he's made one or two mistakes, but a lot of the time I think our problem this season is the players have let him down with just either not turning up or not being clinical enough.
Yeah, I think we've been unlucky in some of the big games. I think, obviously, like you said, that Chelsea game is just a write-off because it was over. That 30-second goal just killed the game off already. They were so shell-shocked, and then it obviously carried on playing on. But then this recent Chelsea game, I thought we were brilliant until Herrera got sent off. Like, it threw everyone off guard because he actually went to attack them, which they obviously were expecting us to just park the bus, and we didn't. We just started pressing up really high, and then fucking Michael Oliver just ruined the game. But overall, I don't think he's been that bad in the big games. The Liverpool away game, I think we're the only top 6 team that they haven't beaten in both attempts. But I would have just gone and played for the draw. I was happy with it, to be honest. But and then we should have really won at Old Trafford. It was just a stupid handball by Pogba that he didn't need to do. But overall, he has made some weird tactical decisions, like most recently against Middlesbrough, that putting on 6 defenders and inviting the pressure on was a bit...
That's to be fair, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, but in the big games, I think he's been all right.
Yeah, we'll see what happens after next week, won't we, with that? I was quite surprised with the 6 at the back and inviting Borough on, and I think we got lucky, really, with the mistake from Valdez, always a red, because it let us off the hook. I think Middlesbrough might have had another chance in that game, and if that had ended 2-2 from being 2-0 up and dominant, I think Mourinho would... And quite to be fair, at least some United fans are consistent. They weren't happy about that, even though we won. So, as I say, United fans are tend to be very, very knowledgeable and fair, and will give their honest opinion regardless of the result. A lot of people saying some of the best things has been bringing back the attacking football, making United watchable again, making us hard to beat. Yeah, I definitely agree with all that lot. There's massive amounts of improvement with Manchester United this season, and what I would say is from a difficult situation as well. Let's not forget, around October time, the press were desperately trying to build an out campaign against Mourinho, and to be fair, you all stood firm and just ignored it because the press were desperately trying to build it. I don't know whether you can remember that, Alex. They were every little thing, and you look at what's happened to Pep this year. They've given him a free card, Klopp again, everyone else. But around October time, I definitely remember when we went to the Football Blogging Awards in November, and I was sat next to Neil Custis from The Sun, and it's Neil Ashton, I think, who's the editor there, and he even said, I had a word with the editor saying it's too early to be being anti against Mourinho. He's got to be given some time. But they wanted to go with that angle. Now, I think Neil Ashton actually has an agenda. He's the presenter on Sunday Supplement, and I don't watch it anymore because him and that woman who come on are just so anti-Mourinho all the time. And Mourinho, I think, maybe has belittled them in the past in a press conference, but you're a professional journalist. Show some professionalism, really. But he's rode that one out because things have got better, but I think he came into a club that had so much deadwood, had a mentality that was going totally out the window of winning games and being strong mentally. He's built that up, but it's been a long process. I agree, but I think he's done a fantastic job there. And like I say, getting it back from the media was very, very admirable because they were out to get him. I remember it quite clearly.
Yeah, I do remember it now that you were saying, because obviously we got off to a good start with the 3 consecutive wins, and then things started to go a bit pear-shaped. But I think it's because Pep and Klopp especially, they seem to be like the golden boys that they can do no wrong. It's like Pep went out of Europe against Monaco, and that annoyed me when they were even doing that in the run-up to it. They had a 2-goal margin going away to Monaco, and everyone's like, oh yeah, City are through. I said at the time, they're probably not going to go through. Monaco are the highest scoring team in Europe, but people said, would Fergie have ever thrown away a 2-0 lead to go through? No. Would Mourinho throw away a 2-0 lead to go through? No. It was just poor management on Pep's behalf, but because he's like the golden boy and because he's still living off that Barca team, that he can do no wrong. And Klopp, I saw a stat that in his first 50 games, he's done worse than David Moyes did at United. So it's just anti-United bias as always. It's anti-Mourinho bias because they just love hating Mourinho at any chance they get and just trying to knock United down. It's like also what goes under the radar completely is Pogba's the most expensive player ever. Yeah, that's true, and they all say he's a flop, which he isn't. But Pep spent more than any manager has in any window ever. Yet it never gets mentioned, and people always say, "Oh, Mourinho needs to spend to get success." But Pep spent more than Mourinho ever has in one window.
Well, I'm not quoting this verbatim because I'm not too sure, but even though it was tweeted out off our account this morning, I haven't checked whether it's true or not. So I don't know whether I'm right, but Man City have been done for anti-doping things, and apparently one of their players actually missed an anti-doping test. Well, Rio Ferdinand missed an anti-doping test and got a 9-month ban, and the press were all over it. Have we heard anything about it? This is the world we live in with Manchester United. There's a positive to it because it means we sell. I was doing the transfer stuff last week, and these papers that cannot stand Manchester United, and any opportunity they can, they stick the knife in. Oh, funny how when there's nothing to sell, there's no games to sell, and you need to sell papers, and every little transfer deal is about Manchester United because you know that half the world's going to click it. So they just make me laugh. They make me laugh. So I'm glad you've got stuff like the United Stand, really, because at least it is United credible. And fan opinions the best, I believe. Luke Shaw, T-Dog Man is having a laugh. He just said the Sun and the Independent are good sources. The Independent's not bad. The Sun are terrible. Pep is a good manager, says Jordan Thompson. He's drunk. Luke Shaw then quickly, because a lot of people want to sort of mention that. A few people saying about the squad rotation, he's not done that enough. I think he's going to have to do something in the next month because you can't play 9 games in April. And let's not forget, people are saying 9 games in April. It's not like it stops at the end of April. We then go into May when we might have to play, I think, another 7 or 8 games. So it's going to be games every 3 days until the end of May. So he's going to have to do something about the squad. So let's maybe hold on about that. But one of the positives I read, and I agree with it, was that his handling of Mkhitaryan and Martial, whilst at the time people were getting worried and saying, oh, we're going to lose these great players, I'd have to say it's been very good man management, especially in the case of Mkhitaryan, who has come back as a very consistent and important player now, but you'd have thought he was going to be sold in November because he was fit and not playing. Luke Shaw, some people think it's going to end up the same. I'm slightly concerned about Luke Shaw. I think he's been fit for quite a while and he's not getting used, and we are playing people like Darmian at left back. I think I don't think there's any tough love tactic there. I think it's there's some sort of issue going on, whether it's Shaw's inability, whether Shaw's just taking a while to get up to the standard, or whether Mourinho is actually thinking about selling him. I know you're a big Luke Shaw fan, as am I, Alex. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think it's just the fact that he doesn't rate Luke Shaw? He turned him down at Chelsea, didn't he?
Well, at Chelsea, it was apparently due to wages that Mourinho was like, oh yeah, how could I speak to my senior players if I've just given this kid the amount of money that he was talking about. But so I don't know whether he's holding a grudge about Luke Shaw rejecting Chelsea at that time. And because his brother said, remember I said before on the show about his brother tweeting when Mourinho said Shaw was injured, and then his brother tweeted out, oh yeah, he isn't injured. Mourinho's always had something against my brother. But I don't know, I think, to be fair, that he might have started doing the Mkhitaryan Martial treatment, but then it's just, I don't think Shaw's going to stay, which is really frustrating because he is one that will end up regretting losing him because he will be a brilliant player. We've spoken time and time again about has the injury affected him, and like with the running at players like we spoke about last week. But at the end of the day, he's still, I don't care what anyone says, he's still our best left back. And it's ridiculous when you're playing Phil Jones at left wing back over Luke Shaw. It's just really frustrating. And like I said, Darmian there, Rojo there. Rojo obviously is a really good player at centre back, but Shaw's better than all of them at left back, right, by such a distance. And he just hasn't got given a run of games. He got that one game against whoever it was for 60 minutes, taken off after 60 minutes, and I don't think we've seen him since, apart from in the England game coming on for a cameo. So he just needs a run of games, and if we're playing now every 3 days, then he has to play now. If he doesn't play in these upcoming games, then he's 100% going to get sold. But then the issue is we do have Darmian who can play there, Young who can play there, Rojo who can play there, and David Blind who can play there. Or if you want, you can play Phil Jones there, apparently. So I don't really like his chances, and I think he's gone, and I think we'll sign a new left back in the summer.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not even 50% sure. But I've pardon the pun about Shaw as well. But I think I've got a funny feeling he will go. And I think in fairness, I think it just comes down to Mourinho doesn't rate him as a player. And if you are a manager and you inherit players that you don't fancy, then you've got every right to get rid of them. It's not a Mourinho signing. I like Luke Shaw a lot. I totally agree. I think with what Alex said there, I think he will go to another club and he'll be a very good left back. And I don't think the injuries impacted on him at all. I thought he played a couple of games at the start of the season and he was going into tackles fine. I still think he's got it, but for whatever reason, Jose feels that Darmian and Blind and even Phil Jones can play that position better than him. But let's not forget, it's not even a fitness thing. Some people still think it's a fitness thing. It's not. He was in the England squad. He's not getting picked because Mourinho doesn't want to pick him. Tremaine Bishop says, I think Luke Shaw will be sold in the summer. And Brian Price says, how about Mourinho complaining about players being exhausted, yet having players like Shaw, Fozo, Axel unable to get on the pitch? Yeah, I'm not going to fall into his exhausted trap next month. Not at all. Andrew Ellis, Shaw needs to play as he gives more balance on that left side. And after the leg break, I don't think Shaw will ever fully recover. Says Breach 69, looks slow and overweight. Will be interesting to see what happens with Shaw. If we are going to get rid of him, I want Mendy from Monaco. I think he's basically a left-back Valencia, but we'll see what happens. Ideally, I want Luke Shaw to sign, but Paul Michael Bale says, if we sign Mendy, I'll be glad to see Shaw go. I wouldn't. I like Mendy, but it's got to be because Mourinho gets rid of him. I wouldn't, if it was up to me, I wouldn't be selling Shaw to get Mendy. I mean, Shaw's English, and he's very good, and that's what you want to see in a United shirt for me. I like having the foreign players, but I want more English players involved, or British players, and yeah, definitely for that. One of the positives, obviously, winning the League Cup, Alex. Nice to get a bit of silverware. We won. I mean, even Van Gaal managed that, so he does deserve some credit. I think Mourinho's a very shrewd man, and he took every tournament very seriously this year because he wanted to get a trophy in his first year. Obviously, we got knocked out of the FA Cup against Chelsea. I think we were all disappointed at the time, but it was a few days later when we actually looked at the fixture list for April, and we thought, bloody hell, it's probably a good thing we got knocked out of that cup, because I mean, physically, there was no way of fitting all these fixtures in. We would have had to move the Burnley game to May. There wasn't enough weeks left. We would have had to play like a Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. It was that ridiculous. There wasn't enough fixtures. But Mourinho still had to go for it, to be fair. And I think that is one of the big positives from him. As a Manchester United fan, I think we're very fortunate to have a manager like that who every tournament takes it seriously. And through his own words, we're Manchester United, we have to respect every tournament we're in. If you're a Spurs fan or you're a Liverpool fan this year, you can give it the big un, you can give it the banter, but you've been sat, like I said a few weeks ago, Liverpool didn't play for 2 weeks. We played about 5 games in that 2 weeks. I'm sorry, if you're a football fan, you want to see your team playing games. I don't care. If I was a Liverpool fan that time last month, Alex, and they were doing this on Twitter, yeah, but our players are getting a good rest. Do you think, as a fan of Manchester United, I'm happy to not watch my team for 2 weeks and be out in the FA Cup and out, they weren't even in Europe, but they put their kids out in the FA Cup just so they can have a good old rest to go for top 4. I mean, come on. I think it's a bigger picture about football, really, and Spurs did it with the Europa Cup as well. They got themselves out of that, I feel, because they weren't in for it, because they wanted the top 4. But Mourinho, big applause from me, because he's actually gone for everything. And fatigue's an issue, but it's been an exciting season because we've had so much football to watch.
Yeah, definitely, and it shows the strength of our squad. Liverpool, they were playing all this like nice football and everything up until the turn of the year. When it got to January and they finally had to start playing more than one game in a week, they completely fell apart because you can't play their pressing style of game for a whole season. And this is why, if they do get Europe next season, whether it's Europa League or Champions League, they're going to struggle next season because you can't keep up how they play for an entire season. But it is good that obviously it goes hand in hand with the youth question. We haven't obviously been playing our youth as much as we would have under Van Gaal because we've been playing these stronger teams. But then you see that we got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, should really be in the semi-finals if it wasn't for Michael Oliver. Won the EFL Cup, and then hopefully we'll go on to win the Europa League. And it's good that he's taking it serious. I just hope that the players take the Europa League serious. I think the further we get in the competition, the more they will start being up for it. And he has been rotating. He's even been playing. Romero's got quite a lot of games this season, I've noticed, especially recently with the Europa League. So, yeah, credit to him. And I prefer, like you said, we're victims of our own success in terms of the fatigue. But I'd rather him keep playing our first team if it's getting us through the stages and hopefully winning more silverware.
I've saved my personal best positive for last, but there's one sort of slight. It's called the good, the bad, and the ugly. This show. So I've got a good point to finish on. I think we've been more positive than sort of constructively negative anyway. But look at the live comments. Dino Brown, Shaw is fat, end of. Anderson 2.0. God. Oh dear. And Arish Red says, hello Mark, just sub to the channel. If you are new tonight, you've found a fantastic community on the live comments. We're live every night at 8:30. You're very welcome. Get involved. I'm sure you'll make friends for a long time on there because there's people who've been there for years. So very welcome if you are new tonight. Let's talk Matteo Darmian. I'd rather not. I don't want to put people to sleep. I think Darmian's got to go this summer, but we're talking about that later in the week. In fact, we're doing a show, I think, on Tuesday night, the players who will leave this year.
Quickly on him, do you remember that when he first came and we were on the show saying, oh yeah, he's the best right back in the league and stuff, and he was so good in his first 10 matches. So that's why when we get signings in future, we can't like hop on the bandwagon and get overexcited saying they're this or they're that, because you can have another Darmian.
I am going to do the Snapchat in a minute, don't worry. But Alex has made a good point there. I think we've learnt a lot. Hello, sod it, let's just do the positive now, and I'll come back to the constructive negative in a minute. We have learnt a hell of a lot doing the United Stand, but I think as fans over the last Star Blogger, we're going to do Snapchat. Just calm down. I think my big... Well, let me talk about my positive. My big positive of all of this, and Alex can do his in a minute. It's a long time ago, and I think many of us forget it, but we shouldn't forget it. But last summer was probably the best summer I've ever had as a Manchester United fan. I love transfers. I don't want us to just become Galacticos. 3 or 4 signings a summer is fine. It's natural progression. It's natural rotation. We must always be about the youth, and I'm a big advocate of that. But to be competitive in a transfer summer is the aim of any club, and we have not been like that for over a decade. We've been all the excuses under the sun, hoping we're going to, chasing a player all summer, and it doesn't work out. There's no value in the market. The last we had a little hint of it under Van Gaal with the Falcaos and the Di Marias, but last summer was just a joy to behold. I mean, the only fly in the ointment was the Euros. If they took that out, it would have just been total wall-to-wall Manchester United transfer news brilliance. And it was brilliant, but the big factor in that was Jose Mourinho. Chelsea are still very good at transfers, but Mourinho made them good at that. And Manchester United are suddenly big players in the transfer window because of Jose Mourinho. You bring Zlatan in, you bring Bay in that nobody'd heard of, you bring Mkhitaryan, who everyone pretty much knew was one of the best assisters in Europe, and then you bring Pogba in that nobody thought could be done. And also, the second part to that is the January transfer window, where we sell 2 players that, whether you like them or not, Schneiderlin and Memphis probably did need to go, and he gets massive amounts of money for them. Again, another thing we've always been really bad at. So my big positive, Alex, is the fact that Jose Mourinho, and we do forget about it because we've had an up and down season on the football pitch, and that's where it matters. But that summer last year, nobody had a summer in world football like that, and we never would have had a summer like that, to be fair, under Sir Alex. I think that's what you get with Mourinho. You get absolute A-star brilliance in the transfer window. I'm not saying every player will work out, but the business he does both in and out of the club, and you might even be right about Schweinsteiger. There was a window of opportunity to get rid of that wage with the MLS starting up again very soon. We might not like some of the things, but he is very, very good in the transfer window, and we as fans, if you like that sort of thing, it's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're also factoring the fact that Rooney will probably be gone in this summer, then with Schneiderlin, Memphis, Schweinsteiger and Rooney's wages put together, you're getting rid of like 700, 800 grand a week off the wage bill. So you can use that to bring in the likes of a Griezmann or whoever you bring in. But yeah, that's a fantastic point. I didn't even think of that, about how in the past, like, what did we sell? We sold Hernandez for like 2 million, Nani for like 3 million, RVP for something ridiculously low.
Well, there's a ridiculous stat which I did a couple of years ago on Twitter, and it was, I think it might have been 17. If it wasn't 17, it was definitely 19 million. We let Raphael, Robin van Persie, Hernandez, and Nani all go for under 19 million pounds. I mean, that is just. But we've always done it. We sell players for a packet of crisps and a Rolo. I mean, it's just, we're rubbish at it. But what did we get for? We got 20 million for Schneiderlin and 20 million for Memphis, which is pretty much what we paid for them.
Exactly. So you can't say that's definitely got Mourinho's handprints over it. He said at the time, "Oh, I didn't want to get rid of them, and they'll only leave at the right price." So he was clearly pressing it that if you want the player, then you're going to actually have to pay the big money for them. And Van Gaal must have been like, "Oh yeah, they're not part of my plan, so just have them. We're rich. It doesn't affect us." Like Hernandez, even though I'm not his biggest fan, we sold him for like 3 million, and now if like how we're linked with apparently signing him back, he'd probably cost like 20, 25, 30 million to sign him back. So it just shows how we're just such mugs when it comes to the transfer market. But we should really be, because we get charged a premium for signing players because of how rich we are, we should demand extra money for selling players, because offering us like that amount of money isn't going to give us an incentive because we're rich anyway. But yeah, that is a great point and something that Mourinho's changed. But it's also something that I think over the years now, Woodward's got a lot more experience in the transfer market than he was, because when he first started, we were like, oh, who is this clown? What's he doing? Yada, yada, yada. But he's improved loads. And I think the Glazers, for all the stick they've got from everyone over the years, myself included, they actually are starting to spend money, which I don't know whether that's because of under Fergie, they knew they didn't have to because he was so brilliant, he could win with any squad. And that we need to just pay to get back to the top. So it'll be interesting if we do win the league in the relatively near future. If once we've won the league, we'll build on that and start spend loads again, or if we'll just be like, oh yeah, we're at the top now and become complacent and then don't strengthen.
I think that's a fantastic point about Woodward. It's very easy to be critical, but you should always also be positive about someone when the opportunity is there to be done. And I think that's what this show tonight's all been about. We don't normally get an opportunity to do this, and talking about our manager, the good, the bad and the ugly. And I think the great thing about this show so far is I think the vast majority of what we've spoken about has actually been positive, which is great. But on Woodward, I just want to say it wasn't part of the show, but I think Alex has hit the nail on the head there. He took over that summer that we lost David Hill and Sir Alex Ferguson. You're only as good as your advisors, and he's got David Moyes, who comes in, gets rid of the backroom squad, which I think was his biggest. He made a lot of mistakes, Moyes, but that was the biggest mistake. And then David Moyes is well known for just analysing and agonising over every transfer. So Woodward had him to learn from. And then, to be fair, Tyler said it as well, Van Gaal's second summer was great too. We thought it was anyway. To be fair, Woodward did a good job. It's just the players didn't work out that well. But he's certainly doing great things now, and I think he's very, very good in his role, Woodward. I don't actually have any... He's always been good at the deals and the partnerships and things like that, but I think he's been fantastic in the transfer window as well, and he does deserve a bit of credit because he used to get a lot of negativity as well. Beck Howell says, I loved summer because it's warm and you can play football all day. Yeah, it's not really United-centric, Beck, but there you go. Mourinho gets his business done early, which helps, says Torian Williams. Just very quickly, a lot of people are asking about that, Alex. This is a very, very quick question because I want to just get some of the Snapchat stuff as well. But one, do you think that this summer will be like next year? Do you think there's going to be a lot of big business? Two, what do you think United are going to end up with in the end of May? Because I suppose where we end up at the end of May will impact on what we get in the summer then. Like if we don't get Champions League football, I think that will impact on one deal in particular. But do you think we're going to win the Europa League? Do you think we're going to get top four? And do you think it's going to be a busy summer? Or do you think it will be quieter than last year?
I'm not sure about top four because we have a lot of hard games. We have Spurs away, Arsenal away, City away, and then Chelsea at home. And although looking at when you read out the other teams' fixtures last week, it did actually give me more confidence. But I think that we need to be prioritising the Europa League because that is easily winnable. When you look at our squad compared to all the other squads left in it, the only real threat to us really is Lyon. But come on, we should be beating Lyon very comfortably, and it's all written in the stars. Like I said last week, Zlatan coming back to Sweden and playing in that final and scoring the winner.
It's his first European Cup, isn't it? If he wins it, he's never won. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. He's never won any European Cup, whether it's UEFA or the Champions League. Yeah,
it will be. So he'll obviously be motivated to win that, and then then the questions will be coming: will he go out on a high or like that? But to be fair, the more I'm like reading about him saying that he wants to leave, Dispo, I'm saying, is that I kind of want us to sign Lukaku rather than keep Zlatan purely because of the age thing. But then I understand how it could be left behind. But I think in answer to your original question, I think we will have a big summer again. If you see the players we're linked to with the likes of Lukaku, Griezmann, Bukayaku or whatever he's called from Monaco, and actually another player from Monaco that I saw we were linked with. There was a report in Cope, I think it's a Spanish newspaper, that we offered 80 million euros for the Mbappe. I'm probably pronouncing that. 19-year-old from Monaco, and apparently after the City game we upped it to 110 million euros. And it's like with any other team you'd be like, oh, that's just tabloid bullshit. But seeing as it's United, I kind of actually think that probably is true and that we are offering that much. Which 110 million euros for a kid it's like mind-blowing. But we paid 60 million if all the bonuses pay off for Martial, and I'd pay that 10 times over for Martial because I think he really will come good eventually.
Yeah, I did read that about Mbappe. I do think it's a load of nonsense, and to be honest, I don't really want him because I think we've got Marcus Rashford, and I think if Marcus Rashford was playing up front for Monaco every week, he'd be doing the same sort of thing. I think I've noticed that a bit this season. I don't want to get into it now. Maybe we'll do it later in the week. But I've noticed it a little bit with some United fans not believing in Rashford as much as they did do. But I think he's still that great player. I think if he was playing up front for Monaco, he would be doing exactly the same as Mbappe. I just think a lot of it's to do with he's not playing as much football and he's not getting as many opportunities. I think he's one of the best players in England. Personally, I would take Mendy from Monaco. They've got some great players. But in answering to what I was... and I just wanted to say as well, I've been quite negative about Lukaku, saying he's a big game bottler. I can't wait for the game a week on Tuesday just to see if he turns up against United, because I must admit, I do sometimes change my mind, and the positivity a lot of people have put around Lukaku to United, I'm starting to think, he is Premier League proven, he is a bit of a flat track bully, but the problem we've had this year is not scoring against the flat tracks. So I think he'd be... At the moment, Aubameyang's the one I want. I don't know whether we could do it, but away from him, I think he's a good candidate.
Lukaku scored an absolutely ridiculous goal on international duty as well against, I can't remember who it was against, but it was in like the dying minutes to make it 1-1. He chested it down and turned and volleyed. It was brilliant.
If we can do a Lukaku deal with Rooney the other way and get him at a reduced price, I think it would be great. And let's not forget, he's not signed a new contract yet, although there's rumours that he is going to sign it again, which he was going to do 2 weeks ago, so we don't know.
No, he's come out and said he's definitely not signing a new contract.
Okay, be good, interesting then. I don't know when his contract is up though. Is it soon or?
It's 2 years left, so because it's with Ross Barkley isn't signing a new one either, and Koeman said, we'll look to sell him with Barkley because he only has a year left. But then with Lukaku, he's like, we want to hold on to our players. So I think because he's got 2 years left, it might. But Juve said this about Pogba. People say it all the time, and like West Ham with Payet, they say that they're going to stick onto it, and then you just offer a few extra million, and then they end up accepting. And especially if we could use Rooney as a make weight, and it's obvious that Rooney would want to go there. So both parties want it. So you never know.
Colin McMahon's asked us for the moment of the year, which is a great question. I'll leave Alex to think about that, and I'll have a think about it when I've covered this. I just want to say that I think we'll win the Europa League. I'll pin it down now. I think we'll win the Europa League. I think that's the one to go for. I think top four we've got to try, but maybe try at about 80 to 90%, because we don't want to pick up injuries in that. We've got to go for the Europa League. I agree with everything Alex says. On paper, we should win that. And in relation to the summer, I think it's going to be better than last year. Camille's just made a contribution and said Donnarumma. That's just another angle. It's so difficult. I know about a month ago, Mourinho said only 2 or 3 signings to add whatever. I'm really happy with my squad, but I think there's too many factors into that. A month ago, things have changed. I think De Gea will go, so we'll need a goalkeeper. I don't want De Gea to go, but I think he will go. I think, like Alex said, Zlatan might go. I think Rooney's going to go, so we need a replacement there. I think Luke Shaw a month ago, he was probably thinking he might keep him, but he might not now, so that's a left back. I think there'll be 5 signings at least. There'll be people going out the door, and I think it's going to be a fantastically exciting summer as a Manchester United fan again, and I can't wait for it. The United Stand, we do it every night in the summer, and it's going to be fantastic, and hopefully you'll all be here with us. But only on Friday, Mourinho's in Croatia to watch Croatia-Ukraine. Is he there just to have a holiday? Is he there to look at players? Perisic didn't actually play. I got excited about that, then realised when the game kicked off he was suspended, so maybe it wasn't him. Perisic, I bloody love him as a backup left midfielder. He's got everything. He's experienced. He's 28. But these are players we weren't talking about a week ago. So it's going to be very, very exciting. I can't wait it. There's just a comment here on the live super chat. Why are you giving Fellaini credit for doing what he's supposed to be doing? He's tall, of course. He's supposed to be good at heading, says FNAO. I agree. I know. I'm not on the Fellaini bandwagon. I'm just sort of waving at it, saying it looks nice at the moment, but I won't be getting on. What's your moment of the season so far, Alex? I think that's a really good question and probably quite a hard one to answer. So get commenting in the live comments as well and let us know.
My moment will obviously be winning the cup. I think the most I've celebrated in the season was that Middlesbrough game at Old Trafford where we scored in the last minute. There's just so many frustrating games where we haven't been able to break teams down. There's nothing better than just scoring in the last second. But then I went mental with the one where Rashford scored against Hull at the very, very beginning of the season.
Yeah, you just nicked mine actually. My moment of the season was that goal against Hull because it was so late and It's ridiculous because it was only the third game of the season, but already, I mean, we remember doing the watch along and it was like, oh, we've blown this, we should have won this, we've lost the chance to get maximum points, we need these points, and little did we know we were going to drop so many points at home. But yeah, that was just great because we won it late. And to be honest, to be fair, Wayne Rooney made that goal with a brilliant bit of skill, so that was my moment. I think we've had some nearly moments. I think of Pogba's free kick that hit the post, that would have just been absolutely great.
If it was, I was just going to say, if it was for a winner rather than a draw, then the moment of the season would have been Rooney's free kick against Stoke.
Yeah, well, I got my stick for not really celebrating about that because, I can't help myself. I was just so annoyed that it didn't really make me very happy because I wanted to win the game and I thought the point wasn't good enough. But Tyler says he celebrated most for Rashford's goal. George Kyle winning the League Cup, no question. Leon079 Gaming. I was so happy with the Middlesbrough game and Hull, but also I was hyped with the Pogba transfer. Yeah, to be honest, if we're talking about moments of the year again, I probably would go back to not the Pogba signing because it just dragged on and on and on, which I don't want the Griezmann one to do. But I was really excited when we got Zlatan, and I don't think he's disappointed. I agree with Abinaf that draws have killed our title chances, definitely. But yeah, good shout on Gay. He's been immense. I think Ross Barkley's an interesting one. Like Alex said there, he's only got a year left on his contract. Somebody will be signing him. And I've always quite liked him, and I think Mourinho has as well. I would not be surprised if there was a little bit of a cheeky United bid to get him. I'd be excited.
I already have a Ross Barkley shirt on my England shirt, so he'd probably be ruined if he came.
yeah, we better not sign him anyway. I've just realised people have sent us Snapchat, so let me just grab some of those. I'll do more of these on the Skype Goldbridge tomorrow because this show has been very packed, and there's probably stuff we could have covered that we've forgotten about, but I will take some of the Snapchats just for you very quickly, and you can follow us on Snapchat at United Stand NUFC. I have started posting up little things during the day, so you can follow my story on there. But here's Connor.
Well, Mark, I think he's been absolutely fantastic in his tactics compared to Van Gaal's. His transfers, but his bad thing is about the youth. He doesn't use.
That's Connor about the youth. Harry Mac 11. Just somebody dancing. We could watch that all day. He says, good progression in competitions and bad Luke Shaw. And let's have a look. Anybody else? Half says,
I completely agree with the whole Fosu Mensah thing. I think it's just a joke. He gets 4 minutes. He's got such world-class potential. I don't know what Mourinho is doing with that.
Not happy about the Fosu Mensah thing. And Karan.
Positives, we're playing great football this year. Negatives, he's stubborn and that's nowhere to be in football.
Positives, great football. Negatives, stubborn. He's always been stubborn. And then I've got a few people just sending me messages. Do I think that Memphis will return? Alex, do you think Memphis will return?
No, but I still think I was going to be right with what I said about him leaving and that he'll do really well when he left. And so far, he has done really well at Lyon.
It's a pub league. That was from Callum. Sander Sagers has sent a picture of him with his teeth. I think he's had a bit of plastic surgery as well. And he says, the games are actually exciting now. Negatives, Fosu's Mensa, as simple as that, which a lot of people are saying. Bex Howell says, Jose has made us good to watch, but he needs to pick better subs bench. And Stephen XAF says, using Fellaini because Fellaini is the GOAT. He's happy about
Just quickly, with Fosu, isn't he, as far as I can remember, isn't he only 19? So the fact he didn't get used as much as we all would have wanted this season isn't the end of the world because he's still so young.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I would agree with that. But I just think if he hadn't been so good last year, we wouldn't have this. I've just got a frustration that it's a regression year. He's wasted a year. And I think he should have gone on loan to somebody like Hull or Bournemouth. It's not really, for me. I'm not saying he should have... Well, I think he should have played more. I've got to be honest. But it's not really that's frustrated me. It's the fact that if he wasn't going to play, 4 minutes is pitiful, like Haf says there. He should have just been loaned off. Someone like Bournemouth or Hull, or even a decent championship side would have been good for him. Stick him in the midfield. He'd have played 30, 40 games and he would have been a far better player than he is at the moment because training with the first team is not the same as playing first team football. So I think that's where it's gone wrong. And I think there is a reason. I think something has gone wrong because he's done such a good job with Pereira. Why wouldn't you do it with Jose Mourinho? It is a bit odd, but there we go. Please drop a like on the video. We never get opportunities to do this, really. We'll do it at the end of the season, and hopefully we'll be talking about we've won the Europa League and saying what a great year it's been. But it's always good to have some constructive bits, and I think we'd be lying and we'd be ostriches burying our head in the sand if we didn't talk about some of the things that people have had issues with. So thanks for your honesty. Please do drop a like on the video. The United stand is always about saying it how it is, and I think we have done tonight. But I think the great thing is, as I said at the start, I wouldn't swap Mourinho for the world, and we have been quite very in the main positive, because I think it has been positive. And one thing I would always say is, for those people who have still not made their mind up about Mourinho, just think back to last summer. That summer was fantastic, unprecedented. Pogba, I think people, even now, I think we take it for granted what was done. We never should have done that deal. Never should have done it. It was the signing of the summer and break the world transfer record, and I think we just took it for granted. And in a way, just unprecedented. And Zlatan, and Mkhitaryan, and Bay, great signings. And the sales in January. But the most important thing is, the club that he took over was in a mess, an absolute mess. A year ago, we were just going from one disaster to another, playing rubbish football. And yes, Mourinho's a great manager, but it's going to take time to sort it out. And the one thing you always get back, well, look what Conte's done for Chelsea. Well, he's had no European football, and he took over the champions, who down tools for a season. I mean, Eden Hazard should really get a slap round the face from every single Chelsea fan. He was the player of the year when Chelsea won the title with Mourinho. He then down tools and was one of the worst players consistently for a whole season. And then he's back to being a player of the year again because he's trying again. They were the champions of England that down their tools. Then Conte came in. They started trying again. And not only that, they added Kante, who won the title for Leicester the year before. I don't think Conte has done anything amazing, Alex. I just think he's walked into a very, very good situation where players wanted to prove themselves again, who were champions. He made a fantastic signing with Kante, and they've had no European football, and it's been a perfect storm to go and do what they've done.
Yeah, definitely. I just hope we can challenge them next season. I think obviously with European football, they're going to not be as fresh as they were this season, but Kante is just so brilliant at what he does, and so he's now won back-to-back Premier Leagues, it seems. So let's just hope someone can take him out next season.
I think what is destined to happen in England in the Premier League is what we're going to see in the next few weeks. Two big teams are not going to get Champions League football, and it's going to be teams that have become quite accustomed to getting Champions League football. I dread to think who it's going to be at the moment, because it could be us. I think the Europa League is so important because it's almost a get out of jail. I think if we were just going top four, it's going to be a hell of a shout to do it. But I think that will happen next year, because if Arsenal miss out and say Liverpool miss out, then they're not going to go anywhere. They need Champions League football, so they'll make investments, they'll go for it, and whoever's not in Europe is always going to have the advantage. Chelsea and Liverpool have had big advantages this year, and I hope those teams that miss out are in the Europa League, because it's a big advantage. But before we even talk about next year, and I do think we'll win the Premier League, we've got a very, very, very exciting next few weeks ahead. And then we've got the summer, which I think will be great as well. But thanks for coming on, Alex, at AXAS23 on Twitter.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good show.
Yep, really enjoyed that. Thanks everybody who's joined us. Please do drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're back live tomorrow night and every night this week at 8:30. It's the Skype Goldbridge show tomorrow. I'm sure there'll be some sort of major topic that's coming out tomorrow, because the papers will be back hungry because the Premier League's coming back. So join us tomorrow night at 8:30. If there's anything on here tonight or anything that's getting on your goat at all, give us a Skype. Skype Goldbridge is the name. You can now Snapchat us as well. I'll be doing some of those. United Stand MUFC on Snapchat. Send us a little clip and we'll get them out for you. But really enjoyed it. Thanks for everybody who gets involved. There's loads of brilliant content from the last week that we've done as well, if you've been away for a week. Perisic video, Griezmann latest. I've seen somebody on YouTube, I'm not going to shout them out because they don't deserve it, saying that Antoine Griezmann, £89 million deal done. It is crap. This is the depth people go to get people to click their videos. It is not done. If you want to know the truth about Griezmann, we've got a video called The Truth About Griezmann, but in summary, no deal is going to be announced about Griezmann until at least the end of May, and it's explained in that video. We've also got secret signings video. Just go and have a look around on the United Stand. There's loads to look around. I really enjoyed tonight. It's flown by as usual. We've gone over as usual, but we'll be back tomorrow night at 8:30. Thanks everybody for watching. Speak to you very soon. Enjoy the start to your week. I won't, but we'll be back tomorrow night at 8:30. Thanks for